Hi there, Melody here, and today we're going to talk about AI. These are the things that I wish I'd known or someone would have told me about a year and a half ago when I really started getting deep into AI. The first thing we need to get out of the way is AI is not taking your job. However, the person sitting next to you that's using AI is. And that's really what this is about, is how do you understand how to use AI in a very simplistic form and start building up the muscle of getting used to using AI as an assistant to make you more effective at your work and honestly in your personal life too. And when I first started using it, I was honestly pretty frustrated because I was seeing all this stuff online by friends of mine and this and that person. They're like, AI is the greatest. It's magical. It does all these wonderful things. And then I would go into ChatGPT and I was like, I don't know, like, is something wrong with me? Because I'm not seeing magic here at all whatsoever. It just kind of seems a little bit flimsy and I don't really get it. And it was only after really working with it over the past year and a half or so, that I'm like, oh yeah, like I see the value of this. But it does take some getting used to it, like you building up the skill of how to use AI. And that's what we're going to talk about today is like, what are those things I wish I'd known that year and a half ago that really would have cut my learning curve down a lot. It reminds me a little bit of AI is that the when I was first using it, it was like I would prompt it with something or I'd try to get it to do something and like it was like 10% effective. I just got frustrated and I was like, okay, this is not really all that helpful. Now that I've used and figured out like, okay, how do I make it work for me? I'd say about 75% of the time it's giving me really good quality stuff. Not only that, but that 75% is better than what I would have done spending hours doing this. And it generates it in seconds. But it does take some time to get that skill to figure out, okay, like how do I use it? The first question that you want to think about is, are you giving it the right tasks? Because there are things that I just have noticed like it just doesn't do very well with. Like anything you're not already clear on with what you like want to have happen. So I've given it some like creative stuff like organize this or like really surface level tasks of okay, hey, go and research this thing. And it just doesn't do very well with that. Like you need to be more specific and really understand, okay, like, hey, what am I asking it to do? And there's a little bit of trial and error with that I've found because it is very dependent on like, what's going on in your life. What I've seen a lot of people doing right now is that they get there's a lot of people right now selling like the prompt lists and stuff, but this to me just creates noise for you because it's like 100 prompts of things you can ask AI to do. And it's like, okay, but that's not helping me in my day-to-day life. That's just giving me more things to do now. I don't need more things to do. I need to be more effective and be doing the right things, not more things on my to-do list. And these giant prompt lists to me just seem like the illusion of progress because it's just like, okay, there's one more thing I now need to figure out, but it's not helping me make my current workload easier and making space so I can actually think. So it's like really understanding like what can you use it for in your day-to-day life? Like for me, I do it a lot for taking emails or taking video transcripts, like call transcripts with clients and different things. And I'll put it into the AI. I'll have them analyze it for me to like give me really good feedback on like what's going on here. I'll have them draft a first follow-up email, which has saved me a ton of time. And then sometimes like I just use it for processing my feelings, which sounds like really weird when I say it out loud, I gotta admit. I've trained a coach, like a coach for myself. And like if I'm just like in a downward spiral or something, I'll use the voice dictation on my ChatGPT and just kind of like verbal diarrhea into ChatGPT. And it helps me to like really process my thoughts and my emotions in a way that I don't think like a friend can really do because ChatGPT is totally like hands off. So there's that. And then the other way I used it the other day was I used like an intense curl conditioner thing for my hair, and I usually just go to the store. I'm like, okay, whichever one's on sale, right? And there was four of them that were on sale when I went to our local drugstore Shoppers, and I was like, okay, which one do I choose? And so I created a chat GPT chat, which like I primed it with, okay, I have curly hair, this kind of curl. These are the problems I have. I'm looking for a product that will do this, this, and this for me. I took pictures of all, there was four of them. And I was like, can you compare out all four of these and then give me your best recommendation based on what I've put here? So it goes through, it like lists out all four of them, the pros and the cons of each one of them. It's like, I'd probably go to this one for everyday use. And so it's really helped me like take down my decision-making fatigue of like, I didn't have to spend a lot of time and like, maybe I could have just grabbed one, it wouldn't have really mattered, but I'm a highly analytical person, so I couldn't do that. But that just like it took down my decision-making fatigue. So rather than try to find new and wonderful things that you could do in your life, really look at like, what are you currently doing on a day-by-day basis? I'm a really big fan of a time audit, both personally and then also professionally, of like what's eating up your time and like how can AI make that easier for you. That's the first thing. The second thing is a method that I picked up from Jordan Wilson, who runs Everyday AI podcast. It's a great podcast, but only if you really want to get super, super nerdy on AI, frankly. It's a little bit heavy even for me at times. He goes into really in depth of just like, what are all the AI tools? But one of the things that he talks about is the concept of prime, prompt, and polish. So when you're working with ChatGPT, and I'm specifically focused on just ChatGPT here, there are a ton of AI tools out there right now, but it's overwhelming just working with ChatGPT sometimes and all the features they're releasing. So if you're new to AI, I would say focus on ChatGPT, like just start to get used to it, start to get exposure, start using it is the most important thing here. And you can always start using these other tools as they come along, but you really want to build up that skill of being able to work with ChatGPT, because think of it like the dawn of the internet type idea of like when the internet first came out, and I say came out, but like when people started to reach that mass adoption phase, because before people really started using the internet and Google came around, like there was still the internet, it just wasn't mass adopted. And that's what we're seeing with AI too. Like AI has been around for a while. It just hadn't reached that tipping point of mass adoption until ChatGPT came along. And this is still very much early stages, but you have a real opportunity here to just get used to understanding it, because it's advancing incredibly quickly right now. And if you're not already getting comfortable with it, a year, 2 years, or 3 years from down the line, you're really going to have to catch up just for you to learn how to use it. And, I'm working on like kind of understanding like how you really like quantify that. Like, what does it mean to really know how to use AI? For right now, I think a lot of it is just using it and trying to see it and messing around with it as much as you can. And that's really going to give you a strategic advantage, whether you are a team member or you're a business owner or whatever. But the people that are leveraging AI are going to outshine others. Okay, back to the prime, prompt, and polish. So this methodology, I think, is one of the things that was really missing when I first started using ChatGPT, because I would just go in and I would just like put something in like, find me a great cooking class or this, that, and the other. And it would give me like the most bulletproof answer possible. And what was really missing is priming it. And I picked this up. There's a great master class on AI too that kind of gives you like a good overview. And I really liked the way that they explained it, of like AI has access to all of the knowledge of the world. And when you're priming, you're focusing it in on specific niched areas that matter to you. And if you don't do that, because it's got so much information and it's trying to like condense it down and give you what you want, it's going to have to remain pretty surface level of like, it's going to be very generic and probably not that good. But if you really prime it and focus in on like, what do you want this thing to do? So typically like I do a lot of content and copy and, content copy. And I'll start with like, I want you to be the world's foremost expert on copy. I'll like reference like Copyblogger, other copywriters that I like. I want you to look up their work and understand what conversion-based copy is. I want to tell a story. I want it to be written in second person so that the reader really feels heard, of like, what are those actual goals of like, what are you trying to do? You're really priming it to say, I want you to focus in on these specific areas. Then you prompt it after that. Okay, I've got this content. My favorite thing to do with ChatGPT is to go on a walk and just like brain dump on something and say, okay, this is my idea. I want to do this. I want to do that. And like, it's a mess. I gotta be honest. And then when I come back, I like to work on my computer with it because millennial. And then I'll take that, I'll put that into ChatGPT and I'll be like, okay, organize this. And I have a content writer, ChatGPT, that will take it, organize it, put it in a structure that actually makes sense to people and people can understand. And then I go through at that point in time and we'll potentially polish it up. And I'll go through and I'll polish it. And it is hit and miss. You got to be careful. There's something called hallucinations with ChatGPT where it'll just make stuff up. And they're working on like limiting that down, but it is part of like the benefit of like a generative AI like this is that you don't get the same response every time. Like if you compare out the difference between a generative AI as opposed to like a chatbot that you'd probably find pretty regularly right now on most websites, is that it's going to give you the same result every single time. Whereas a generative AI like ChatGPT, it will give you slightly different results for better or worse, but it does also imagine things. So you need to be careful of that. And I would really be careful. Just make sure you read through stuff. Make sure that it is something that you feel good about writing. The other main challenge I see to it is that it has trouble like maintaining my voice and it kind of cuts that like AI tinge to it to some degree. So if you're using it for content, just like go in there, add in like your flavors, or like ask it specifically, I want you to keep my specific voice. And what I've done now is I used AI to help me figure out what my tone of voice was, which I thought was funny. And have just a copy paste thing that I put into most of my chats to say, okay, hey, this is kind of like how I like to speak and like the little formulations and how I want that content, because I still want the content to sound like me to some degree. I just want to be more polished and better. So I think that is helpful to have. I haven't personally figured out a way to how to like get that to do it consistently, because even in a ChatGPT chat, when I go and I say, okay, keep my voice earlier on in the chat, later on in the chat, it still will strip out the humanity of my content. So I'll have to like remind it again, like, oh hey, like I still want this to sound like me. And it's like, oh, okay. So I think that's fun. So to go back, so prime, prompt, and polish. And this is really like you learning how to use that. Like, how do you best prime? How do you prompt? And how do you polish? And how do you measure your success with that? Well, do you get something back that's actually usable and helpful and helps move things along for you better than you would otherwise? And again, a cautionary tale, like don't use this as a way to avoid the important things in your life. Don't add more to your life. AI is great because it can make more space for you, but I think there's going to be an awful lot of people that are going to use it as a way to distract themselves from the things that they don't want to do. It's just like another task list, another thing, which just falls into that stress mindset of, okay, there's more things I have to do now with AI. But AI's real benefit to me is it's given me more space and made my content better. It's made me better as a leader because an AI does exactly what you say. So then you get a lot better at like just directing and giving instructions to humans too, of like being really specific about what it is that you're looking for and being clear that you're giving them the right context as well. I'm an AI fan. I know there's a lot of people out there right now that, have some fear around AI, but we can't go back. We can't put this back in Pandora's box. So you have a choice. You can decide that this is a fearful thing and a scary thing, or you can be one of the people that's leveraging it. One of the people because AI is not taking your job, but the person next to you will, and you can make them the bad person for taking advantage of AI, or the company that's taking advantage of AI, or you can use it to live a happier, better life and be more effective with your work and also be more effective personally. I'll be publishing more stuff on just like how I'm using AI, because that's one of the gaps that I really saw is like there's a lot of people that would like talk about, the different things that they could do or you can do this, but it's like, okay, but how are you actually using it on a day-by-day basis? And what does that look like? And what does that process look like? And how can I apply that to myself? So if you want to learn more, you can subscribe. This video is not produced in AI. You wouldn't have all of these mistakes, I think, if this was an AI video. But subscribe to my YouTube channel, Business Tech Ninjas, and I'll see you next time.